As always, it's great to have you with us on the Holiday House Hunt. I'm your host, Laura Cusimano of Lux House Hunters, the luxury division and managing broker of Long Island and Palm Beach House Hunters, exclusive buyer agents. You can hear us regularly every Sunday at noon on 900 AM, The Talk of the Palm Beaches, 103.9 FM, LI News Radio, or you can listen through your computer by going to either of the radio stations or thehousehunt.info. So there's no place like home for the holidays, and it's the time for charitable giving. I brought in a special guest, actually guests, I should say, because I have three of them, 2 in the studio and 1 on the phone. And they're all from this special organization, and I'm sure not many of you have heard of it, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring them on the show today. It's the Prune Belly Syndrome Network, and I have the past board member, Frank Wucker, and he was also the past VP as well. And I have the current vice president, Deborah Apgar, and I have Frank's girlfriend with us, Tammy Pendergast. So Frank and everyone, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
And like I said, I'm sure nobody knows what prune belly syndrome is. So maybe you and Tammy can tell us a little bit about the defect that it actually is at birth.
Sure. It's in most cases, it's a medical condition with a partial or complete lack of abdominal muscles at birth. I was born with it, and in my case, it was a complete lack of muscles. It leads to many other complications relating to kidney, lung, and heart, and other things. The general statistics of it are 1 in 40,000 live births, and 50% will not survive their second birthday.
Wow. So, Tammy, you're an outsider to this because you met Frank several years ago, and you found out that he has prune belly syndrome, and I'm sure you Googled it because I'm sure most people that are listening are going to say, what is that? I never heard of it. And it has a medical name too. What's it called?
It's called Eagle-Barrett syndrome.
Okay. And like Frank actually has it, and I know Frank from high school. We actually sang together in
Yes.
chorus, and Frank's been singing throughout the years, and he does actually a lot of charity events for this organization to help get people to be aware of prune belly syndrome and to actually raise money and get donations so that people can have the opportunity to go to their conventions. And they have a whole bunch of other things that you could donate for too. And Debbie's going to help us out a little bit with the donations a little bit later on during the show. So how was your life, Frank, growing up and actually being born with this prune belly syndrome?
Well, I was in hospitals a lot as a child, more than I really even know about, to tell you the truth, with many different issues relating to it. I was not expected to survive the first year. And I was very physically limited as a kid and had to be very careful so as not to get hurt due to no protective muscles.
Right. So you were not allowed to play in gym in school.
No.
And I know you told me this, but you did actually carry your books in front of you.
Usually,
to
yes.
kind of protect your body
Right.
as you're going down the hallway.
Right.
Because you have no muscles in your stomach
Exactly.
area.
And at that time, yes. I used to wear a Velcro binder around my waist to try to keep things tight and protected whenever possible. And I would usually put my books in front of me when I walked through the hallways in school.
And then you started singing.
Yes.
So how did you get into singing?
Well, being that I couldn't play sports or do a lot of stuff that was physically limiting, I really got into music as a young kid and started to. There was a church by me that had a church folk group, so I used to go watch them play and all, and I used to try to get into the folk group, and they finally did allow me to come in and start as a singer, then a tambourine player, then a guitar player, and I was there for about 10 years because they let me be part of it.
And that kind of gave you a life.
Yes,
in
exactly.
a sense, because I'm sure as a child, and I wasn't there during elementary school, but I thought you were cool because you were a great singer. So I didn't notice anything other than that you were a great singer and that you could play every instrument. But some of the kids, they bullied you and stuff during school.
Some did, yeah. Yeah, there was. I mean, the one I remember the most was in junior high, in between classes, walking in a hallway, a crowded hallway, and I was talking to a friend of mine, looking to my right at him, and out of nowhere in front of me, I feel a blow to my stomach. Somebody just decided I was a target, hit my stomach. I went down and couldn't breathe, and went to the doctor, and they found that the bruise was just a little left of center to my stomach, and they said, Frank, if it was centered, it would have killed you.
Wow.
So just a couple of inches would have made a big difference.
Wow. And you didn't know anybody else that actually had this disease growing up. And
No.
back then, we didn't even have computers.
Right.
Not that I want to say that we're that old, but there were no computers back then.
Yeah.
So you didn't even find out about anyone having this. And none of the doctors that you went to ever had a patient with it.
Right.
Until you came across this organization, the Prune Belly Syndrome Network.org.
Right.
And that was how many years ago?
I found the website, I believe it was like 96. So, and my operation, and I had an operation that corrected my muscles, which was in 1982. So there was a long span in between that.
Wow.
Before finding out anyone else who was going through this than I was.
Wow. And just tell everyone a little bit about that operation.
Yeah, I had a doctor named Ralph Gurr, a surgeon, who discovered that he was able to take muscles from your thighs. There's 4 muscles in each thigh. He can take one from each thigh and flip them up into the stomach area, which for me served as a 95% correction to the missing muscles. I now have the muscles that I didn't have before that.
Right. And it's, think about it, because everyone's so aware of their core now.
Right.
Your abdominal muscles, they're so important for everything you do, and they hold your body up.
Right.
And, I was asking Frank, I was like, yeah, but you always seemed like you got up good, but you managed to compensate by using your arms to get yourself out of a chair.
Exactly.
And now you're actually able to get up the same as everyone else.
Without any assistance. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's pretty incredible. And it's amazing that there's, even though you said there's 40,000, but there's not that many, there's not really that many diagnosed cases.
No, I think Debbie could probably answer that better than I can, but I think if I remember right, there was like 1,500 that we are aware of. I could be wrong about that number. Is that right, Debbie?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, 1,500 cases that we're aware of in the country or the world?
Well, it's not cases that we're aware of. We're aware of 1,500 survivors.
Okay.
And
The
a
number
lot
of cases is undetermined because so many of the births are terminated. That's usually the first course of treatment that a doctor will suggest, is that they terminate their pregnancy.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that part. I was also going to mention that only 50% survive past 2. You said 2 years old.
2 years old,
right,
exactly.
Frank?
Yep.
And it's also sad because one of the little babies that was only 5 months old just recently passed away.
Yes, we just found out a couple of days ago, December 7th, 5-month-old Jet Tully passed away from complications stemming from prune belly and other issues he was going through. And it's tough because he was from Long Island. I got to meet him. I got to meet his family, and it's tough.
Yeah, that had to be heartbreaking for them.
Yeah.
So people need to be aware that the prune belly, it's not just that you're missing the muscles. Other things get affected. Your organs also get affected, and that's why it's, I guess, more a fatal disease.
Can be, yeah. I mean, it can affect kidneys. It can affect lungs.
Intestines.
Intestines, right? Yeah, various different things.
And Deborah, your child has the prune belly syndrome too, correct?
Yes, he is 7 years old. Nicholas, we actually adopted Nicholas, and his adoption never would have came to fruition had it not been for the Prune Belly Syndrome Network, because we had no information, and everything we found on the internet essentially told us that he wouldn't survive. And we already had 3 children, so taking a 4th child and chances that they would pass really was difficult to make a decision. But after a meeting, Ann Grail, who was the president at the time, and Frank, as well as Mary Ann Hall out in Philadelphia, I mean, we had to reach out to people across the country in order to be able to speak to anyone about what was the possibility for him. And we found out very quickly that the doctors were going to be very wrong. And our son actually had the same surgery as Frank did.
Right.
But he had it, Frank, how 30 years later, correct?
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're going to be right back. We have to go to a commercial break. But if you want to help, it's www.prunebelly.org.